Awesome. Good morning. We were waiting for the Q sign, so we're all just sitting here waiting. But awesome. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. We're excited to invite you to the panel that we have titled as Navigating the Future, Knowledge-Powered Insights on AI, Information Governance, and Real-Time Analytics. My name's Felix Chang. I'm part of our EY AI and data practice. I'm super excited to moderate this panel. I'm joined by three exceptional data leaders from Edward Jones. Before I ask them to introduce themselves, this is quite a unique panel where we have three individuals from the same firm. I've been to many panels. There are three different participants, but to host a panel from one firm with three different perspectives, three different data personas and data stakeholders, we're excited to learn about their AI and data journeys. And one maybe as an ice-breaking question before, as you introduce yourself, is what was the latest interaction you had with AI? And I'll start with you, Laura, if you could introduce yourself and the opening questions.
Yeah, sure. It's great to be here. My name is Laura Lorati, and I am one of the leaders of the data science department at Edward Jones. I've been with the firm 4 years. And let's see, my last time that I interacted with AI is not a very exciting answer, but maybe it'll be useful for some of you. I have used it recently to try to interpret building code for my county, which if you've ever tried to read anything like that, it's awful and painful, and I was shocked at what a great job ChatGPT did of explaining like what plumbing is legal and not legal. So I highly recommend trying that out if you were ever dealing with that.
Awesome. Zach?
Yeah, I'm Zach Ferguson. I'm also an analytics leader at Edward Jones. I've been with the firm for 3 years. And I guess my latest experience that I could share with AI is around meal planning for my family. So my father-in-law has various health conditions, diabetes, you name it. My father has heart conditions, and my wife and I really try hard to be able to make meals for them, share meals with them that aren't going to harm them or actually going to help them. So oftentimes we'll plug in their symptoms, their conditions, their blood work to figure out what should we give them now, what can we feed them now, and be able to help them improve their health.
That's awesome. Lynn?
Yeah, so Lyndon at Edward Jones, I've been here about 5 years, responsible for data and information governance. I have two examples. One's kind of boring, one's a little more interesting, I guess. First one, as all of you may have done, I've done all of my performance reviews using ChatGPT. I have all my bullet point notes, and I ask it, with the right prompts, be enthusiastic, provide constructive feedback, et cetera, and it knocks it all out. So I actually did that before I left here. So I did 6 of them in a row. It was great. And then my second one, I have a high schooler looking at colleges, and so we're planning on doing a road trip. So I thought it was really fun to do, or ask GPT, give me the top 40 colleges on a road trip I'm from St. Louis to Virginia, to the East Coast, and map out a route for me with all the top schools, and then you start to fine tune it, in chemistry, the top rated liberal arts, and so forth. So it actually gave me a road trip out to the East Coast.
Awesome. Just to share, for me, my daughter plays piano, and randomly she was on a piano actually 2 nights ago, and I asked the AI to actually write down the music notes of all the things that she's playing. It actually created music notes so that she could replay it. Of course, she cannot replay by reading all the notes, but she was quite impressed, and now she wants to reuse it every single time when she plays piano, which I think I have to sign up for the premium version now. Awesome. Let's dive into the knowledge-powered AI. It's a word that's been used within Edward Jones, but I know the audience it's kind of first time hearing this term. Lauda, I'll start with you. There's definitely a lot of hype around AI. And within Edward Jones, you guys have named your AI initiative as knowledge-powered AI. What does knowledge-powered AI mean at Edward Jones? And how do you distinguish between the hype and the reality?
Yeah, that's a great question. Knowledge-powered AI is very much what it sounds like, but I think it's it's about scale. So I don't know how many folks know this, but Edward Jones has a very large footprint. We have over 18,000 financial advisors in the US, as well as over 8 million clients. So if you think about how many conversations are happening every single day around what a client's needs are, what their dreams are, the amount of data that we have is, I think, unparalleled when it comes to the financial services. And the other way that I like to think about what knowledge power is I think about the sort of connections that a financial advisor has traditionally had. They're very, very hyper-local. So they're going to know their clients in their town, in their little area really well. They might know some other financial advisors in their region. And traditionally, that is how financial advisors and clients were connected. They were connected in this very regional, local way. Knowledge Powered is about taking all of those different local connections and just bridging them across the country using AI and trying to find those commonalities, find those insights that allow financial advisors to better serve clients, find folks that are in similar situations, perhaps across the country from each other, and just really drive better service for those folks and better outcomes. So when I think about AI and the hype, there is so much of it. It's all just happening very, very quickly. And I think one of the things that I appreciate about Jones is that we've been very intentional in how we ground AI and how we want to use it. And it is all about improving outcomes, and it's meant to be an enhancer for our financial advisors, never a replacement. So it's supposed to make life easier for them. It's supposed to just be that little extra that makes it easier for them to serve clients. And that is what helps keep us really, really focused and not just get caught up in all of the hype about the latest model or the latest cool new piece of tech that's coming out. We don't do tech for tech's sake. It really is focused on driving customer impact.
No, amazing. Zach, you work very closely with financial advisors. As Lauda mentioned, Knowledge Power bridges that gap across the locality and across the country, bringing the FA knowledge together. As Knowledge Power AI is making a difference in your team, what sorts of questions financial advisors are coming to you?
Yeah, so I guess to build on what Lauda said, for me, the legacy of our Edward Jones is built on trust. And with knowledge-powered AI, it's introducing ways to scale that trust to all of our advisors and our client relationships, while we're still trying to maintain that human connection. And since me and my team, we sit closer to the advisors on a day-to-day basis, we understand more of their data needs. Knowledge-powered is really taking us from more of a data retrieval team to a decision enablement team. Lauda mentioned some of the things that they're doing, looking at millions of client engagements, trying to determine next best actions, things like that. But it really just goes beyond that to look more at even behavioral changes, looking at product fit, looking at life event indicators, to really bring up the insights in a timely way in the ways that FAs need. And the questions that some of the FAs are asking now are really improved. It's not just give me a list of my clients that hold Apple stock. It's what's the next best action for my client based on their point in life, based on their, do they have children? Are their children going to college? On top of that, they might be asking, is there a risk that I might be missing? They have all of this experience, but maybe they're overlooking something. Can we leverage the vast collection of knowledge that we have across all of our financial advisor base from now until we collect data, to really be able to better answer that question, to figure out, are our financial advisors, do they have a client that maybe we've seen similar situations in the past? And last, another question what might be, can you explain this trend to me? Our financial advisors are very busy. The markets are changing every day, as we all know, and we want to be able to give them the insights that they need as quickly as possible. I think what they're really getting at is clarity, confidence, and personalization at scale. And what we're trying to do with Knowledge Powered and what we're doing being closer to the business is trying to activate decades of the institutional wisdom that we have. And like Lauda had said, what we're really aiming for is reducing the friction between data, between the advisors and the insights that they're looking for. We want to make every advisor more insightful, more prepared, and generally more present with their clients.
Yeah, awesome. Lynn, in order for all of this to come together, and governance holds one of those keys, in making this successful. How do you see your organization evolving to support the KPAI at Edward Jones?
Yeah, so historically we've been focused more on we'll call it structured data. So we've really focused on understanding our lineage, quality metrics, and so forth. With the advent of KP and AI, we're definitely expanding into, I'll just generically refer to as unstructured data, really understanding our content and recognizing that we have a lot of gaps in our content, things that people author, those types of things. We don't really have great mechanisms by which we can capture and manage it. And so we've really been pushing hard on that. And I'll steal, I was at another conference and I really appreciate, for those that are familiar with the while back, they came out with a defensive versus offensive governance, right? And you have to balance between the two. And I think the evolution that we're approaching right now is actually essential defense, doing what's necessary right at the right time with responsible offense. And that's going to be a key component for us as well, is how are we responsible and how we're leveraging AI. And so that at the end of the day, it's always about our clients. We're here to protect and serve our clients, and how do we ensure that we're human-centered as we do so.
Awesome. And then you said the word for kind of the next topic, which was human-centered piece, where all of this is great with technology and the initiatives that we're running at Edward Jones, but in all of this, it has to be human-centered, right? And great innovation is all deeply human-centered. And I wanted to touch upon, and maybe this is the next set of questions we can talk about, how is Edward Jones preparing our people, right? And I know technologies are moving super quick. I mean, last year to this year, things are different, and there are new products, there are new capabilities. But with that in mind, Lauda, given how rapidly AI is evolving every single week, I almost think like there's news that we're reading. How is your data science team keeping pace with all these changes?
Yeah, it's a great question, and to your point, it's not every year, it's every week, it's every day, there's something new. And I would say that it's really important for us to not chase tech for tech's sake. It's also important for us to have a culture of innovation. We do have, when we hire folks into the data science team, we look for that continuous learner, because we know that the area is just moving and changing so quickly that you have to be willing to always be uncomfortable learning new things and testing new things. And so we have that culture of experimentation. And moving fast is, of course, important, but we need to move fast and deliberately. So when we're trying out new tech, we're really making sure that it's tied back to a use case, something that's actually going to make a difference. So we ask ourselves, how is this going to actually help a financial advisor or a client do something better? Mm-hmm. So that's always the first question that we ask. We need to make sure that, again, it's human-centered. And then for us, it's really been, this is where Databricks comes in for our team, moving to a shared platform where we have the data scientists, the analysts, the engineers, the MLOps crew, everybody on the same platform, which was not the case a year ago, has been a really great enablement tool in the sense that we can experiment much more quickly, deploy things much more quickly, and trying to make sure that you're keeping up, but not getting distracted. You have to stay focused. And so we just have always in our mind, what's the purpose of this? Is it making someone's life better? Great, then we'll try it. If not, follow the news, but don't get caught up in the hype.
No, awesome. And Zach, you as Lauda mentioned, a lot of these things are fundamental questions that we answer of, does this help our clients? Does it help our financial advisors? You sit very closely with financial advisors, and as you bring some actionable insights to them, how do we ensure that the AI insights produced by your team is genuinely translated into a meaningful decision at Edward Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always traditionally a gap between the insights you're trying to deliver and the actions that you're trying to spur. But for me, the gap isn't technical; it's human. It's organizational. And if we want to drive real outcomes, we have to make the experience seamless. We have to make it relevant. We have to make it trusted. So for me, some of the ways that we do that is first we incorporate a lot of visibility and transparency into all the work that we do. But first, we embed early. We want to make sure that we're not at the tail end of whatever initiative is being launched, where the business is asking for data or reporting or analytics, because we might not have the data or reporting or analytics, or at least in a way that we need in order to enact that change. So we want to embed early and walk the journey with the business from the very beginning, so that we can provide additional context and really try to build solutions that stick. And then from there, like I said, visibility and transparency. We want to make sure that the entire business knows exactly what we're working on at any given time. To me, it builds trust, it ensures alignment, and it just makes sure that we're working on the right things, and we're not just working on the things that might be the easiest to get out the door. After that, it's all about relentless prioritization for us. My team specifically, we are inundated with requests multiple times a day, and it can be hard to really cut through the noise and make sure that we're working on the things that we should be working on, especially if things are coming from very senior leaders. So we want to make sure that we're always working with the business and make sure that what we're prioritizing is really driving solid business outcomes, aligns the business priorities, and really is just moving the business forward. After that, it's more about iteration. So whenever we deploy anything, a model, a dashboard, analytics, whatever, it's never really finished. There's always going to be an iterative process. So we're always looking for adoption metrics, feedback. Is it driving the actual outcomes? And if it's not, we're not just asking why, we're adapting. So we want to make sure that we're always staying at the cutting edge of what the business actually needs and things aren't getting too stale. And then after that, it's more about integration. So, we don't want our advisors having to, work in multiple different applications at any given time. We want to really meet them where they are and integrate what we're delivering into, the things they're using every single day. You can't bridge the gap by forcing change. You just have to meet the advisors where they are in order to deliver value.
Yeah, no, I think you said one of the key words is ease of use, right? And how do we ensure that the adoption is really one of those key metrics that we want to continue to monitor as we bring value to our financial advisors. Lynn, as AI continues to evolve, there's a lot of collaboration needed. I'm sure the audience would appreciate to hear, how are you connecting all the dots between the different departments, whether it's the data, cybersecurity, legal, risk, compliance? Hopefully we don't have a legal risk or compliance on the audience, but how do you bring all of them together, given there's a lot of different topics and worries that people bring to the table?
Yeah, so a little bit kind of where Zach was going as well. We've actually formalized an approach at Edward Jones. We refer to it as our governance by design approach. And even more specifically, we refer to it as our three-legged stool. So when we talk about governance by design, as the name implies, it's getting governance as upfront in the process as possible, embedding it into the systems, creating built-in mechanisms, ease of use, adoption, and also literacy as well, and understanding what's going on, so that we have more informed end users who are actually using the data responsibly. Where the three-legged stool comes into play, we actually, my organization partners very closely with our cyber, as well as with our legal organizations. So the three of us provide a consistent and holistic response back to any questions that come to us. Historically, they would ask my cyber counterpart about a question. They would answer it from their perspective. They come ask me the same question. They ask the legal the same question. Now we actually work together as one collective kind of group with one singular response that's aligned. And that not only responds back to how we respond to questions about how we do things, we're aligning our technology stacks, we're aligning our processes. And so we're starting to establish consistent playbooks. So one of the benefits of our governance by design is at the level of scale that we have at our firm, we can't be in every single meeting. So we provide playbooks that allow you to fast track. If you meet all these conditions, you can be assured that you're at a level of governance that is comfortable for the firm. And so that we can do quick reviews on those, but we also do constant monitoring as well, constant education and constant reach out. That's one example. Other examples is that actually Lauder and I is a great example. We actually traveled to India a couple months ago to meet with our offshore teams. And one of the outcomes of that conversation that we had was actually recognizing, we refer to it kind of a four in a box, but there's actually a partnership that comes between the data science group, data, technology, and our business folks as well. So we actually align now, and we meet on a regular basis, And as use cases come up, we discuss them, we talk about the benefits, and we talk about like our roles, and we're very clear about our roles and responsibilities are, and then we hold ourselves accountable for actually delivering against those as well. So,
Awesome. I think in India, I think that's where I was honored to be a part of that conversation where you guys actually brought all the right stakeholders together to make sure that everyone was speaking this kind of consistent language across the firm. I'm glad it's continuing. On this week, and I know this is the second breakout session in the morning, so I know hopefully everyone's all awake and excited for this Databricks Data and AI Summit. We're gonna see a lot of technologies. We're gonna see a lot of advancements, a lot of new data product partners that are out there today. One of the key foundational capability that we all wanna believe in is does these products and enhancement technologies bring trust and transparency, right? And building from our discussions of how people and collaboration, let's talk about how we look at trust and security and ethical integrity as for Edward Jones AI Initiative. Lauda, as I know you didn't like this question, but I'm still gonna ask it. AI presents a significant opportunity, but also does provide some risks. What keeps you awake at night regarding AI, and what's one proactive measure every organization should prioritize today?
Yeah, I don't think that my answer is revolutionary here, right? I'm sure that any person in my shoes has that same fear of a model, an AI tool that is just wrong, that pushes the wrong insight out there, that has a detrimental effect on the end user. And I think even before the advent of Gen AI, we all had those fears. It's just that everything moves faster now, and it's a little bit harder to really govern and keep track of everything, which is why some of these partnerships that we're forming are so important. And of course, when you're really focused on driving an end user impact, that is your worst fear, something going wrong. And it is tough to build trust. It is much, much, much harder to rebuild it once it's lost. And it's such a tough balance. It's a difficult line to walk because you want to be very transparent about AI. You also want it to fade into the background where you don't feel like AI is there. And so it's a really difficult line to walk. And this is why I think that these partnerships that we have with teams like LIMS and legal are just so very, very important. One of the things that I would encourage anyone who's in this space to do is to form these sort of cross-functional relationships early on. And in some sense, you just have to go back to the roots and remember that, yes, it's AI, yes, it moves faster, but focusing on your end user, not working in silos, and just taking a really sound product approach will get you in the right direction. And then if you're working with other teams to build some of this governance in and a lot of that monitoring, then, well, it makes it a little easier to sleep at night, for sure.
That's awesome. Zach, you've been working closely with Databricks as a tool set in the last couple months. Kind of how has adopting Databricks helped your team address some of the pressing data challenges that you had?
Yeah, I mean, it's really transforming the way that we operate, the way we collaborate. I think I'd summarize into three main categories. It's access, control, and compute. For Edward Jones, and this isn't unique, but across a lot of older companies, more established companies, data is fragmented across numerous different sources. You might have several different on-prem Oracle servers, DB2, you might have MongoDB, APIs, maybe some actual Excel files in a network drive somewhere. It's not great. But Databricks allows us to unify those sources and actually deliver what we need to deliver at scale and at the speed that we need to. Before that, we were spending a whole lot of our time, way too much time, just simply looking for data, wrangling data, cleaning data. It really just dragged us down, dragged down our productivity, and really impacted our ability to deliver and support the business the way we needed to. And so that's been a huge game changer. On top of that, moving from on-prem compute to cloud compute has been amazing. It wasn't unique for me or one of my team members to get angry calls from IT or technology to say that, why is your query running so long? Or why are you running this right now at 8 in the morning? even though that's how we run the business. So to be able to move from that to a cloud compute capability has really improved our uptime and our stability in what we deliver. And the last thing is control. So previously, we didn't have the ability to manage our own data products, our own schemas, our own functions, whatever we needed to use. So Databricks has allowed us that flexibility. So we no longer need to have an analyst write the same query that another analyst wrote, and all running at the same time because they have multiple different use cases. Now we have our own way to orchestrate and schedule jobs, create unified data products for other teams to use, and it's really made us more collaborative and I think more efficient. And I think for me overall, it's really empowered us, which I think has also helped empower the business. And really, I think the main focus is that really Databricks has helped us shorten the distance between the data and the FA's desk, which has really been driving better outcomes.
Awesome. Lynn, as compliance and ethical standards are becoming increasingly complex with AI coming into the picture, what's your most effective strategy in ensuring that ethical AI usage at Edward Jones, especially as your governance models adapt to new technologies?
Yeah, so when it comes to ethics or even in general responsible usage of the data, it's kind of somewhat boring, but it really does come down to the fundamental governance. We need to understand what data we have, and that's core, right? It's the lineage, it's all those components are in place. We need to understand who is accessing that information. We also need to understand how usable that information is, so that folks such as Zach and Lauder can actually utilize it. And then the last component is probably around the literacy as well. Going back to that literacy, understanding what tools are available, what data should be used, and then how should we use it. So we have a lot of education platforms as well. We have a lot of attestations. A lot of our end users have to agree on how they're going to use it and how they use it responsibly. Ultimately, we can put as many controls as we can, but if you're a bad actor, you're going to be a bad actor. We'll have ways to monitor that for that, but we really do rely upon our community, again, with our approach for Jones of ultimately serving the needs of the client. How are you using that data responsibly? And that's what we really kind of tone in on, and leveraging AI actually to enable us to do that at scale. One of the observations we found is, as you all may have as well, with AI, a lot of the sins of the past have its way of bubbling back up, right? So things that we thought we quote unquote covered or there's not a risk anymore, all of a sudden AI now can find it. We can leverage all these tools now that can actually identify sensitive data that was hidden in some network share that we had no idea even existed. Now all of a sudden it pops up in a response and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So we're leveraging AI to actually help us monitor, but also it does prevent these challenges. So we can't be there at all the time. So it really comes down to educating our end users and ensuring that they understand why they're accessing information, and then also the context around it. And I think that's what's really exciting about the data science work and all the work they do in here. It's actually the context. The data itself, these are all patterns. In my opinion, these are all patterns. Structured data, unstructured data, these are patterns that we can repeat and we can govern consistently. But it's actually the context that makes it really unique. And that's why it's really exciting now, because now we're learning how to utilize our information in really more interesting ways now as well.
Awesome. I know we have 2 minutes. Maybe one last question that I'll ask is, in kind of one key measure that you are focused on this year. So Laura, with you.
Happy to start. I think I'm a broken record on this one, but I would say that for my team, it's enablement, and that is, of course, because right now, I feel like, and maybe this is true for a lot of folks in the audience, but I feel that maybe just even a couple of years ago, data science was more of a push and a pull. We were selling data science to end users around the firm, and then ChatGPT changed everything. All of a sudden, everyone knew what data science, ML, AI was, and everybody wanted some. And so it shifted for us from how do we get our foot in the door in different parts of the business to everyone wanting a little bit of the team's time. And so when you have that many requests and you need to figure out how you take this limited team and figure out where you can make the biggest difference, it comes down to enablement. What is going to be the most useful? What do we feel is possible? What do we feel is possible to govern? What do we feel is going to be easier for adoption, of course? And then, how do we track it? Enablement is what it's all about for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Zach?
For me, it's velocity. The markets are always changing, always moving. Speed to insight is the new competitive edge for us. And if we take weeks or sometimes even days to answer a question, then we've already missed the moment. So we need to act as quickly as we can and really just be at the forefront of what our advisors need. So for me, it's velocity.
Awesome. Lynn?
Yeah, the short version, you've probably heard us talk a lot about, is trust, right? Trust in all those components that we talked about. The longer version, since I got a minute left, the longer version is, for those that may not be aware, so Jones has really been embarking on this amazing journey. We refer to it as our 2030 plan. The firm is radically changing how we do business. Our intent is to become one of the premier North American financial planners out there. We're expanding our FAs, we're expanding the quality of services that we provide. And even as an example, when I joined 5 years ago, we were a DB2 shop. And you mentioned cloud. 3 years ago, we didn't have cloud. So now we've kind of modernized our infrastructure at lightning speed. We're introducing all these new tools. And I think what allows us to do, though, is that with the infrastructure that we have and what we're building, we're leveraging AI to actually help us scale. That's actually one of our strategies, is that it's not just let's use AI to come up with really cool insights and so forth. It's actually how do we leverage AI? And I get pressured a lot. How am I using AI to scale? How am I using AI to identify lineage? We work a lot with EY to help us with doing that as well. How do I use AI to help you generate definitions and metadata and so forth? Right? That's really what we're pushing for, and it ultimately comes down to one of our senior leaders who said, "Yeah, we've got this amazing initiative. We're changing how we're doing business. We're changing our infrastructure. Who's got the ball and who's got oversight over this, right?" And that goes back to why we say, my long-winded answer, trust. It's trust that we have the processes in place, we've got the people, and we've got the technology. So that's fundamental and core to what we're doing at Jones.
Yeah, awesome. I know our timer here was very different than what was planned, so I was now panicking when the numbers went up. But no, I have another question that I wanted to ask this group. It looks like Jones have gone through a very successful data and AI journey for the last 3-4 years. I wanted to get your thoughts on what advice would you give this audience as wherever they're in their journey, right? You guys all share kind of the lessons learned and some of the do's and don'ts and some of the things that you're worried about, but what advice can this audience walk away with from today? Laura, with you?
Yeah, I would say you have to stay flexible, you have to stay open, and if you're siloed, get unsiloed real fast because this is a team sport. You're not getting it out there on your own. You really need to work with all of these other groups from the beginning. Otherwise, you're not going to have that trust that you really need to build in your tools.
Oh, awesome. Zach, for you?
Yeah, for me, I think it would be empower your people. Coming from larger companies, I know that the approval structures can be daunting, can be, a little different, a little difficult. So empowering your people, lowering the barriers, maybe putting up some guardrails, but lowering the barriers to allow them to really, try to experiment, build the things that they need to build because, you hired, your people to do a job, and that is to build the future and not the battle of bureaucracy.
Awesome. Lynn?
Yeah, obviously, as a governance person, I think controls are super important, and we do have to have our guardrails in place. But I think what we found as well is that we can't stifle innovation as well, and we need to allow our end users to really use these tools what they should be used for. We're joking earlier about the legal and compliance. I have constant conversations with legal, and they read the news articles, they read all these, and they get really concerned, and they definitely try to stifle what we do. Oh, you can't do that, you can't do this, what about this? Something as simple as leveraging AI for code generation. I've spent hours and hours and hours in meetings with the legal teams, like, we can't do that, what's gonna happen? And it's really about, then we have to take a step back and say, well, if you stifle us, then why are we even using AI then? If you're putting so many controls and you have so much risk and concerns. And so going back to being responsible at it, right? Likely all you also have responsible AI committees. I sit on ours as well. And we talk about how are we using it responsibly, understanding again where the data is coming from, how it's being used, the literacy. And that really enables us to have those conversations. Say, at the end of the day, it's human-centered. So there's always a human in the loop. And these are the controls that allow us to move forward. And so if the legal team gets comfortable with the fact that, yeah, we're not just going to auto-generate things, you look at it, there's a human that actually reviews it and utilizes it, and that goes back to our core conversation around how Jones uses AI. It's not to replace humans, but actually it's to accelerate and to empower and enhance the work that we do on a daily basis.
Thank you for our panelists. We'll be lingering around. Please come up, ask them questions, but appreciate everyone's time listening to our success story.
Thank you.
Thank you.